What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about what could potentially be Spider-Man 2's biggest problem. Now, this is not necessarily like a super anti-video or anything. It's just a discussion, and we've talked about this a little bit. I won't hold you guys, hostage too long before I tell you what it is. But I will say this: make sure, as always, you guys are subscribed. Make sure you guys have the bell icon turned on so you know all these videos go up. And also, if you guys want to subscribe to my second channel, Podcast Now Plus is its name. I'll leave a link for it in the description below. Would love to have you guys over there as well. So I'll just say it. The biggest problem is Miles being too powerful than Peter Parker. And not just that, because that's we've said it. We've said, okay, well, obviously, like the symbiote suit and all that, like that'll change him. That'll make him way, way, way more powerful, and they'll adapt, right? But the thing is, and this is not, the worst problem to have, I think, in a game, right? But it's just something I think you have to be aware of and make sure that you're going to handle going forward. Like, this is a franchise. This is a game. This is a game franchise. It's going to have more than one game, obviously, right? Because we're going to get a sequel. But it also has spin-offs. It also has different ways to go. They're not stuck with... Now, you could argue, based off the sales of Miles and all that stuff, which we've said in the past, right? Like, would they do more spin-off games? Would they do, like, a Spider-Gwen game? Which, by the way, I do want to talk about that in a separate video. I know people are asking me to do that. So, like, but that's something that, as you expand this world, okay, as you expand this universe, you could run into problems where it's like you don't want to make them too powerful or too powerful than the other one. And it's hard to not do that because you just look at what we have. Okay, so we had Spider-Man, right? And Peter Parker in 2018 Spider-Man. And Peter Parker was a very strong character. You had a lot of different gadgets, you had a lot of different move sets. But then when you got to Miles, when you played Miles Morales, he had less gadgets. So that could have been a way of just like, okay, and by the way, like, I think all of them, or at least most of them, were gadgets that Peter had given to him. Okay, so like a lot of them were kind of like, a hand-me-downs, right? So they weren't exactly his, but he had less of them. Maybe that was to kind of show, like, okay, he's not as advanced as Peter. But in reality, like the Venom blasts and all that kind of stuff that he could do, he is 1,000. I mean, there's no changing my mind on this. Without a doubt, by the end of Miles Morales, you are more powerful than Peter Parker. There's just not even a doubt in my mind that Miles is more. Now, he's much younger. He's less experienced. And there's ways, and that's happened before. I mean, that's something that, like, Star Wars has handled and has done before. And really anything where when you have powers, when anybody kind of has powers, sometimes the apprentice kind of like overdoes the master, what I mean? And they're more powerful, but they're younger, they're less experienced, they haven't been through it all, right? And so then the master, the original, or whatever you want to say, they kind of have the one up. And that's, in a way, I feel a little bit about what they're doing with this thing. At the same time, again, like, what you're gonna have, I think this is, I would say, pretty easy to predict. So Spider-Man 2, we know he's gonna have the symbiote powers and all that stuff. He is gonna be vastly more powerful. Now, will he keep some of them? Does he keep some of them? What kind of new skills and abilities and gadgets and all that stuff? What do we unlock? But I can assure you that I believe at the end of Spider-Man 2, Peter will go back to being the most powerful character. Now, again, you could say, well, should it be that? And I think, you see, that's a difficult thing. I do think it probably should. So when your game is literally called, and I get it, like, Spider-Man is not just Peter. Spider-Man is Spider-Man. So, like, when you have Spider-Man 2018, when you have Spider-Man 2020, or Spider-Man 2, okay, when you have Miles Morales, when you have Miles Morales 2, or whatever you're going to do, I mean, like, it's still Spider-Man, Miles Morales. I think people may always look at this franchise as Peter's. So the question is, do you always need Peter to be the most powerful? Well, in reality, Miles is. As of right now, Miles is more powerful. But it's a little interesting because, again, it's how you handle it. So in Spider-Man 2, because we haven't had this yet. So Spider-Man, you're powerful with Peter, but you only play as Peter. Now, yeah, you play as Miles, yeah, you play as MJ, but not in the same way you play as Spider-Man, okay? And then Miles clearly, again, like anybody that can see that he is more powerful than Peter at the end of Miles Morales, but you don't play as Peter in Miles Morales, right? You only play as Miles. So we all know it, right? But we haven't experienced it where it's like, oh man, now we're playing as Peter right after we play as Miles, or at the same time as we play as Miles, or whatever. And it's very, very clear that Peter is now like under leveled, right? He just doesn't feel right. So that's a thing that they could do it. They can make it feel more seamless, and that's what they're gonna have to, I would imagine, try to do with Spider-Man 2. They could even work it into the the game. I mean, if Peter kind of goes off the deep end, if he starts to ruin relationships and friendships and all this stuff, when he goes kind of crazy and he's way powerful, they could work it in a really interesting way where it's like, full well that Miles is nowhere near as close, as powerful as Peter, but he has to do something. So you're doing things, but like, man, I am severely under-leveled. I don't feel as powerful as I do when I'm playing as Peter. There are smart ways to work that into the game, and I think if they do that, it's gonna be fine, okay? And then again, now, so I would say this, that what I just pitched to you, I like that idea. It's not because I'm full of my own ego, but it's just because like I kind of like the underdog, and we know we're the underdog and we're playing as the underdog, and you have to give us a taste of what power feels like. So you do have to have us play as Peter, as Spider-Man, when he is just like unstoppable, where he's just so powerful, and then you have to switch us to Miles, where Miles is just not even remotely close, right? And again, that's a cool story device, that's a cool plot device. The thing that is going to be the hard part, okay, because that's all fine, like if they do that, that's part of the story, that's what they have to do, it's going to be okay. And I think all of us can kind of give them the benefit of the doubt, and we can kind of follow them along and kind of just give it to them, okay? But at the end of the game, when assumingly the suit goes away, he stops being, whether they want to go Tobey Maguire emo or not, right? But when he kind of gives that life up, okay, and he's back to just being Spider-Man, how powerful is he gonna be? Now they have to find interesting ways of upping his power level, because again, even from the base game, so if we play 3 hours of Spider-Man 2 as Peter Parker, without being like super powerful, we are not going to be as powerful as we were in Miles. And they're going to have to explain that. They're going to have to start us out buffed on purpose. They're going to have to figure out a way, I think, to make it work. I really do. I don't think it's right. I think it's not something that's going to break the game, by the way. I don't think it's literally going to just destroy, it's going to get a 2 out of 10, right? It's just going to destroy it. But I think it's going to be like a minor annoyance where it's like, you should feel more powerful as Peter than you do Miles. And it's very clear Miles is just better right now. So you have to figure out a way to even them, at least even them, if not make Peter more powerful. Then you have to go through the story arc, and then when it's over, you have to figure out, well, obviously it does depend on where they go next, right? Like, do they go Spider-Man 3 immediately next? Do they do a Miles Morales 2? Because if you do a Miles 2, again, you get into a situation where you give him another opportunity to become more powerful than Peter again, and we just kind of recycle it, which is not something I think you need to do. I do want a Miles Morales 2, but you have to be careful how much you're buffing them in each of their games. And honestly, it's the same thing with spin-off stuff. You do a Spider-Gwen, if you do literally anything in the Spider-Man world, and you're having these other characters, you got to be careful how you treat them, because if you just go in and you say, okay, well, we have to level them out with Peter, well, why do you have to necessarily do that? You know what I mean? So it's something that's interesting, and I don't think it's going to be the worst thing in the world, even if they do it wrong. I think it would be more like a minor annoyance. I know I kind of titled it like this could be a biggest problem. This could be something that I do think we play it and we're all kind of talking about it, where it's like, hey, is it a little annoying to you that Peter is nowhere near close to Miles, and then they do this thing and then he's still nowhere near close, or maybe now he's way, way, way too powerful, or whatever it is? I feel like that's something that could impact the game. And when you're playing as multiple characters, that's what's tough. Different games have done it in different ways, but if you're playing as different characters, you either have to make them all exactly the same level, and that's if you're playing, by the way, as just like kind of random characters, right? Maybe they have different skill sets, maybe they can literally do things that others can't, but for the most part, gameplay mechanics, like a shooting game, okay? If you're going behind cover and you're rolling and you're aiming and you're shooting, they all do it exactly the same. Nobody is better than the other person, you know what I mean? But in reality, if we really want this game, and it kind of just goes into like the taking it to a new level, you know what I mean? Like, do we want Spider-Man 2 to take it to a new level? I think if we do, these two characters cannot be clones of each other, you know what I mean? I don't want to be playing as Peter and saying, oh, I'm basically playing as Miles just with a different skin on. I don't want that. I really want these two characters to operate entirely different, because they are different characters, right? So that's just something I would say to kind of keep your eyes on. It's something that I think would separate it from like, it would, again, like in terms of like taking that next step to being like a truly revolutionary game, which I know all of you guys want it to be, right? In order to take that step, these are the kind of things you got to focus on, okay? So let me know in the comments below, guys, as always, what do you think? Do you think that this is going to be a problem? How do you think they solve a problem like this? Let me know. As always, make sure you guys are subscribed to this channel, hit the bell icon so you guys know when all these videos videos go up. Again, if you guys want to subscribe to my second channel, Podcast Now Plus, I do a video a day on that channel compared to obviously 3 or 4 videos a day here. So if you guys want to subscribe there, that would mean a lot to me. Thank you all so much for watching. We've been settling in on this one Spider-Man video every single week, and we will continue, okay? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next week.